Hello, and welcome to Now You're Cooking with Gas. This video is about finishing the fire ability gameplay ability, adding a damage gameplay effect, and applying damage through SetByCaller. I'm going to start by reorganizing the AttributeSet class a little bit. Going to make the attributes public so that they're accessible outside the class. Going to reorganize them so that the attribute and the macro are connected. All right, then we're going to launch the editor. Add a new C++ class based on actor called GGDestructible. Let the editor do its thing. So this will show that the ability system component and attributes can be added to any class based on actor. Once that's done, we close the editor, reload the project. Copy over some ability system component functionality. We're going to add a status mesh component, the ability system component, and the attribute set. We need to include the get ability system component function, and I'm going to remove the tick functionality. Include these functions on health attribute change. This is the delegate that the ability system component is going to set up for when the health attribute has changed, and the blueprint version, so we can get that information in blueprints. Remove the tick here and here. I'm going to create the status mesh component, the ability system component, and the attribute set the same way they were done in the character class. Begin play, we will check to make sure the ability system component is valid, and then we're calling get gameplay ability value change delegate to set up this delegate when the health attribute has changed. So every time the health attribute gets changed, this function will be called. All this function does is call the blueprint version. All right, this means that we also need the gameplay effect types header. And in here, we also need, ability system component and the attribute set. Launch the editor. We're going to create a blueprints folder. Add a blueprint class. This will be based on Destructible. And we'll just name this BP Destructible. In here, we're going to set the mesh component to a cube. Scale that down a little. In the event graph, we can add the health changed event. And just print the damage. Next, we're going to create a gameplay effect. Just call this GEDamage. And this will just be a instant modifier, which affects health by subtracting 10. Next, I'm going to create a projectile, which is just an actor. With a static mesh. I'll use a sphere. Make that quite a bit smaller. This will need a projectile movement component. Set the speed to 3000. Drag that to the scene root. Make sure the collision is block. And override it. For now, we're just going to print the other actor. Now we're going to spawn this by doing it in the gameplay ability. So in gameplay abilities, you can call get avatar actor from actor info. This will give you the actor owner, well, the actor avatar. Here we can cast this. Our third person character. From there we can get the camera. Which will give us the world location and rotation. Get the forward vector from the world rotation. This will be the vector pointing out from the camera. We're going to multiply that by a float. You can right click this, convert it to a float, and switch it to, so the location of the camera is a little behind the character. So in this case, actually, I'm going to be using the spring arm. Which they call camera boom. And get the target arm length. show you what that means. So in the third person character, in the viewport, we have the camera's back here. It's connected to the camera boom. So right now, the camera is just behind the player. We can move it using this value here. We want to just put it up a little, or rather, it's to the right a little, up a little. That should work. Camera boom has a target arm length, which is how far back it is. So what this is giving us is how far back, or in this case, how far forward the camera is, or the player is from the camera. We'll multiply that in here. Add the world location, that offset. Actually, for sanity, I'll keep that in. Actually, I'm going to reverse these just to make it neater. This will go into spawn an actor from class. The class we're using is the projectile. Currently need the weight input right now. All right, so your options with this transform are to split it, or drag it out, and type make. You can make transform. Personally, I like to split it. I can add the location here, the rotation. And this spawn value will actually override what is in the projectile, so we're also going to just change this. Need to also include the owner. Let's try that out. A little small. Looks like it's spawning a little too far forward. But you can also see the text of what it's hitting. Make that a little bigger. All right, so if I drag out a few of these, when you're placing an object, you can also just have it in the world and then hit end, and it will place it on top of whatever. All right, so you can see that it's hitting it. You can see that it's hitting the destructible, but it's not printing the damage. The reason why that is because none of that is hooked up yet. So inside of our ability, what I'm going to do, actually inside of the projectile, what I'm going to do is make a new variable. So gameplay spec handle, GameplayEffect spec handle. That will be exposed on spawn, which requires instant editable. So now when I go back in here, when I'm spawning this, I can right click this, hit refresh, and it'll add the new expose on spawn. So for that, I'm going to do the same thing we did in the first video, but this time in blueprints. I'm first going to get the ability system component. This is going to create context, make context, make effect context, which we're going to use in the outgoing spec. The GameplayEffect class we're using here is GGDamage, which we're going to then apply. Actually, that's not here, sorry. This is going to be the spec that's handed to the projectile. All right, then we're going to go into the projectile. Take the spec handle. We need to get to the owner. Get the ability system component from it. Make sure that's valid. And if so, we're going to apply gameplay spec or effect spec to target. The target in this case is also other actor. We need to ensure it has an ability system component as well. In fact, there's two targets here. Could be very confusing. I dragged it out from the source, which is this one, and this will be the actual target. So that means this gameplay effect, which was set up in the gameplay ability, GGDamage, the spec handle was sent, will be applied here. I'll also just add a sequence. So that whether any of this is valid or not, oops, we will call destroy actor. It destroys the projectile when it hits something. All right, so you can see damage taken, -10. And then it no longer takes damage because the destructible, much like the player, no, it won't let me switch to a destructible because it's not character based, I believe. The initial values in the attribute are still set to 40 health and 60 max health. Oops. So this one we haven't hit. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it'll show 0. All right, now I'm going to convert the GGDamage So currently it's just setting a static value of -10. So health is being reduced by 10. Instead, I'm going to change this to SetByCaller. This is based on using a gameplay tag. So I'm going to click here, and then you can add a new gameplay tag up here. I'm going to call this one damage.setByCaller. Now with that done, we go back into where we're applying the damage. Or, more accurately, where the spec is being created. In here, we can use this to assign tag SetByCaller magnitude. We're going to choose the same tag, and we're going to give it a value here, which we can make as a variable. Call that damage. We'll set this value to -5. Make sure that it's being called. It's all very messy. So it looks like it's sending the wrong value. Oh, there's my problem. So I set the tag, but then I was still using the previous version being sent to the projectile. Oh, and then now it's going to be 5, so it's showing 5 as the damage taken. So that actually went up instead of down. So let's go back and change that to -5. Actually, let's make this a little. I'm going to pen the current health. With the damage that was done. Alright, so it took 5 damage and it's down to 35, and so on. Alright, thanks for watching. If you liked the video and you would like to see more, you know what to do. If you have suggestions on future content or abilities you would like to see, let me know.